to the second of our question time sessions here at St George's Park. Our panel for this session is Andy Gray, who looks after the facilities here for the FA, Craig Richardson from Millfield School, Adam Witchill, who's switched from football over to Harlequins rugby now, and Sam Bethel, who's looking after a golf course down in Somerset, which I think is it Walbury? Yep. That's it, I got the pronunciation correct. Okay, so our first question has come in from Stuart Kerrison, and he's from Essex County Cricket Club. He can't be here today, unfortunately, but his question's around trade shows, and he's saying with 3 trade shows in 3 months, are we now asking too much of people, both exhibitors and visitors, to attend so many events in such a short space of time? And I guess if you throw in Sage into that as well, it's 4 shows in a few months, yeah? Adam, I'll throw it to you first, because I know you actually went to Sage, so...
Yeah, no, beautiful surroundings. It was a really good show, some lovely people there. I don't think the greatest amount of footfall was there. It may be timings, I don't know. And then Groundfest next week with Soltex and then Harrogate. I'll be at Groundsfest, and hopefully I'll love Soltex, I'll make it. The only issue I've got is with fixtures. It's whether I can make some of the trade shows. I think for exhibitors it is quite expensive.
Yep.
I think we'll see. I'd like the idea, similar to Sage, where in the evenings at Groundsfest, you're all in one room after all, you're all together, so you can talk afterwards. Sometimes in the evening at Soltex, if you're not going to the awards, you splinter into different groups or areas and things. So I think that'll be nice. I'm looking forward to going. But again, it's timing. A lot of people are in small teams now. The season's getting going. We're getting fixtures thrown at us. So hopefully it will work out well for everyone, but I don't know, it might be quite a lot in a small space of time.
Andy, I mean, you're up here, you look after football. Are you going to make all 3 shows, 2 shows, 1 show, or don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to be making next week. Soltex, I do plan to. And then Harrogate, I will decide much nearer the time. But I do think, is it too many? Probably. 100% agree with Adam. Personally, I like Harrogate over Soltex because of the evening bit where everyone's in the same place, and that's, I just said to somebody outside literally just now, it doesn't matter what the event is, it's who you're with that makes it. And we were talking about this event today, like just everyone coming together, being together. So it's evening bits and the breakout bits that are I don't know, I'd say the best bits, if you like, but what people most find worthwhile often. And that's why I think Harrogate is what it is. Sometimes I think, is Soltex too big as well, maybe? There's a lot to get around. And it obviously covers a lot of different sectors, and I don't know, I don't organise obviously, but is it possible to do 2 separate ones, but more specific each one for those people to attend? But yeah, I've not been to Sage at all. I think the first year was last year, wasn't it?
No, I think that was the second or the third.
There you go then, I didn't even know it'd been on before that.
This year was the 3rd year, I think.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've not been to any of those.
Okay. Craig, what about you from the education sector?
So it'll be interesting to see what Groundfest does. I think that's the new one in the room, if you like. I think that's going to be more interactive, isn't it? It's going to be kind of more hands-on. You can touch more machinery, which I think we haven't had since Soltex left Windsor.
Yeah.
So I think that could have its appeal. I think, like these guys, I prefer Harrogate. I think Bigger do it properly. There's a lot more training opportunities at Harrogate. I think that's much more beneficial. I think the GMA at Soltex, they have some good speakers, but it's not really training. It's hearing about experiences, if you like. So next week probably doesn't fit with the school's calendar, so we probably won't go. We'll definitely go to Soltex. And then kind of Harrogate, it's just miles away, so it's a 2-day thing, is live away, so I don't know.
Okay. You've probably, coming from the golf sector, got a slightly different priority there. I mean, what's your feeling on let's keep it to 3 shows at the moment and leave Sage out of it, because Sage has happened now, yeah?
Yeah. BTME is obviously the big one for golf, and it's more industry focused on golf. I haven't personally done Soltex since it left Windsor. I haven't been to the NEC for that, and obviously never done a Groundsfest. I do feel sorry for the manufacturers and the machinery companies, because if they're not there, say if John Deere don't turn up, it doesn't look good when you've got Toro, Jacobsen, and all the other manufacturers there. And it is a lot of money, like you say, it's an incredible amount of money for them to be at, and they were almost pressurised to be there. It's a lot easier to go to Harrogate now that it's in January. When it went to March after COVID, footfall was really low, because you're coming into spring, you're coming into the time of year where you've really got to be at work.
Yeah.
Having these things in September, October, I don't know, because you're going into winter, especially if you're in the football industry, your season's right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
How do you justify having that time off work? If you're in golf, how do you justify having that time off work when you're coming into your biggest disease time of year or your winter work?
The other question I'll ask you guys, would it be difficult for you to turn around to whoever you need to tell that, we're off to a trade show for a couple of days, that, oh yeah, we're off in September, we're going end of October into November, and oh, by the way, we're off in January as well. Does it come to a point you can't ask to take anybody away, let alone yourself?
I think that's fair, yeah. I think you have to be realistic. And I wouldn't go and ask my line manager or the people above me to go to all four, because I'm thinking if I'm them, I'm going to say, what?
Yeah.
And it is only really worth going to anything if you're ever going to get anything out, because that's what I said, what you're going to get out of it, what you're looking to achieve. So 100%, yeah, I wouldn't even ask the question, to be honest. So.
Okay. Do you guys echo that?
Exactly that. If it's going to be beneficial to myself or the team, then I can justify that, and I'd be happy to. But I think you'll probably get the same experience out of all three. Probably Saltex or Groundsfest will be better for us, because it'll be more, I don't know, we'll deal with playgrounds and fencing and all sorts of different bits and bobs. So that will be probably more pertinent to ourselves. I think I'll go back to Harrogate, because some of my staff have come from the greenkeeping side of things, so they kind of know how beneficial that is, and the social aspect afterwards, and rubbing shoulders, etc. But I might only be able to take kind of myself and a deputy or two. But yeah, it's tough.
Okay. We've got a few sponsors and exhibitors in the room. I think it would be quite good to get some feedback from one of them. There's two next to one another over there. So Lee or Toby, who's going to take it? Hey.
Top.
So Toby from Dennis. Yeah. What's your view on the number of shows? I mean, are you supporting all three currently?
We are supporting all three. Obviously, from a manufacturing point of view, it is a huge financial commitment for the company. You're taking staff off the road. We're supporting it. We're getting equipment there. But saying that, it's also still very important to the industry that people can come and see the machines. And I think the educational side must be built into it. Personally, I don't think we need three. I think we need the organisations to come together, and I think we need maybe a longer show rather than the 2 days, where people can come during the week when it fits with them. I think there's never a good time for anybody. There's always somebody who's going to be busy whichever month of the year it is.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we definitely don't need three. I think that's something we've got to look at as an industry. And I think we should be focusing a lot on the joint education, the golf and the education that the GMA put on. I think you can combine the two together and bring it all into one show.
I mean, we've had this debate since before I was in the industry, and I've getting on for 20 years now. I've been around this, and the first thing that was mentioned to me, and I've said this so many times, it's kind of a broken record, was, we want one trade show, we want one trade association, even at that time. That doesn't seem to be that it's going to change. I thought economics maybe around COVID, that might force the change, because it could be that one or other would need to go cap in hand to the other one to okay, we're in trouble now. Exhibitors tried to force the issue with manufacturers for a while there, pulling out and saying we're just going to do one show and we're going to do you every other year. Then they broke ranks and came back in. Do you realistically think that we're ever going to get bigger and GMA to work together? Now, neither of them are here today, and we ask them the question constantly, and they say we're talking. Yeah. And I know they are talking, and I asked Jason Booth recently the same question. how do we actually get to a point where, as an industry, people get what they want? Yeah, and do the industry want 2 shows? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure they want 3 shows, because everything I've ever heard has been we want 1. So,
Yeah, I mean, the organisations you can combine to a certain degree, but then if you go back to the last topic we were speaking about, if you start bringing them together too much, then you're diluting the promotion of the industry to the parties involved. The GMA aren't going to focus so heavily on golf as bigger are. So you don't want to destroy any of that, because otherwise we're destroying what we've just spoken about, and we're only making it worse. Will we ever see 1 show? I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if the industry wants 1 show or not. You know, the golf guys do like Harrogate. Everyone likes going to Harrogate. It's very sociable. The NEC isn't sociable, really. You're very much stuck in your own little accommodation block, and that's it. So that's a tough one to answer, and I don't actually know whether we will ever get to 1 show. What about you, Lee?
Definitely not. I don't think it'll go to 1 show, because then both of the organisations rely on that revenue from them shows. So if you go to 1 show, would they split it? And then are you taking half the revenue away? So would effectively you get either a smaller association or 1 goes? And I don't think that would be good for anyone. If you had 1 show, someone won't be able to make it because they're on holiday or there's got a fixture on. So then they'd miss out, and then alternatively we'll miss out because we won't get people seeing the product for another year. So
if we turn this around, then is it time for people to face up to the fact that this debate has been going on so long? It's never going to be 1 show, 1 organisation. We accept perhaps that some people want it. Is that more exhibitors want that than the actual groundsmen and greenkeepers? I think from the guys on this panel, we've seen there's a split of opinion. Do you just want to throw it over to Stuart Yarwood there, because I think he'd like to make a point?
I think looking at who does what, I think it's important that I agree with Lee that the revenue, I think, for both organisations is probably the driving factor. Not what we want, but I think what's really good. I'm sorry I didn't get your name at the start. Craig made a really good point about the hands-on thing, and I know people like Dennis and Isis, they do some great road shows throughout the year. That if you do miss one with a fixture, and there's loads of companies do regional training days. I mean, back in the day when I was a lad, back in the 60s, they had Aintree show, which was like a little 1 or might have been 2 days, but it was like a little tiny show where all the Northwest people, and you could actually meet the Northwest people. Right. And there was regional shows around that you put on at various times of the year. So with the hands-on stuff, and like, I don't know, say Wiedemann would get to a golf club and 20 people would come round and from the neighbouring areas, and you'd see the machines working on the practice ground. I think that's really important to still keep going. When we go to the TGA shows, we're walking along the Turf Growers Association shows, we're walking alongside a turf harvester or something working, and we're chatting to the guys. That hands-on experience, I think, is really important to focus as well, rather than just big shows in big arenas. So I think it has to be a balance of everything. Okay, so small focused events, yeah. Practical as well, where you can see and smell and touch and lick and do all the stuff you need to do, yeah.
I mean, Honda, the RFU do Honda Connected, and they actually do the shows going around with different companies and things, and I think that's been brilliant for all the grassroots groundsmen and things, and I think the RFU and Honda Connect are doing really well in that aspect. But that's everything at seed, fertilisers, and also they get, I think Jim goes down and gives a bit of an education behind it. Yeah, the regional sectional things, all the stuff that people put on, and it is amazing what the budgets these guys have to do so many through the year. You just think, wow. So, and then it's a massive cost to do 2 big shows as well. But I think the regional stuff is definitely the future. Okay. Does anybody else on the panel want to make a point on that one before I move it on?
I never thought about it, but I didn't even heard such a thing. But the regional ones is absolutely spot on. Yeah. Because you haven't got to travel that far. Yeah. And then when you do get there, you're going to meet and deal with the people that are going to be dealing with you, if you choose to, rather than going to the trade show where the whole country's reps there, each one. and you can do it in obviously smaller locations outside to experience the actual practical side of it as well. So I didn't know there was such a thing, to be honest. I've been in the industry for 25 years, so yeah, it's a good shout, that.
What about...
Toby, do a regional one.
They do already. Well, Campy do, don't you? Just haven't invited you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, there are sector-focused events as well. I mean, again, Dennis Sysis do stuff in bowls and cricket in particular. We worked with the guys in the education sector on one for the education area. So, smaller events, I do think are easier to pull together for people and easier for people to say, okay, well, it's half an hour down the road. It's not 3 days out of the office, yeah, or 3 days out of the venue, as it were. Okay.